Hi, I'm John Torres.
I'm Scott Packham.
We're from the band Colorfields, and this is
Diandra reviews it all.
Diandra
I got your
reviews
back.
Yeah.
What is the origin story of your partnership with Jerry Wanda and your duo name?
So Scott and I started making music maybe 6 to 10 years ago, somewhere in that range.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
Could be 7, 8, I don't know. And we were in a band called Okashis before this, which is more like a folk project. And as that band sort of died and went away, this Colorfields project sort of rose out of the ashes of that. We've been at it for 3 or 4 years. We hooked up with our executive producer, Dave Tortorello, 2 years ago at Christmas time-ish. And after working with him and sort of developing a partnership with him, he, through myriad ways, ended up meeting Jerry Wanda, and he introduced us to Jerry. We had a couple of meetings with Jerry at Jerry's house, came into this city a couple of times, and just sort of decided that we'd like to work together.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And what was inspiration behind specifically the duo name, Colorfield?
Oh, Colorfields. So
Yeah.
Colorfields, I went to school for art, and I was especially interested in art since 1945, like modernist art, postmodernist art, and the Colorfields movement was one that I always loved. And you might know Mark Rothko or Barnett Newman. There's a lot of people. Mark Rothko is usually the one people know. But anyway, it's just a style of painting where you essentially are just taking like buckets of color and throwing it at canvases. And I just thought that the way that our music is, the way that Scott, especially, like our collaboration, just feels a lot like that. It feels like just bursts of color coming out at different times, and maybe not always, like, doesn't always make sense when you're making it, but all of a sudden at the end, it's sort of like there's sort of a structure to it that we like. So Colorfields was something that I proposed, and Scott really liked it. And
Yeah, after about 1,000 tries,
1,879 tries.
shared notes document we passed back and forth that literally probably had over 1,000
Easily.
names in there.
Band name creation is a hobby of mine, so
I would say
it's
80% were kind of goofy.
yeah,
but,
it's hard not to come up with goofy ones. But I just, I think we just really gravitated towards it. Both of us did, and stuck.
yeah.
Were there any humorous rejections where you're like, that's not going to be the name? Nope.
Oh, man,
nope,
That
nope.
was
At some point, we'll post
Yeah.
the entire list, the unabridged list of
Yeah.
our band name ideas.
your sister was in that
Yeah,
shared
yeah,
note
yeah.
too, and it would just sometimes be messages between you two.
That's
like,
right.
Hey, John, that's good.
And I was like, Gabby, we need serious names here. She just couldn't come up with serious names. But anyways, yeah, that's how we got it.
I know there was a lot. I can't think of any.
Is there a specific color that you would use to describe your personalities? I'm curious, just to go along that line.
I'm ready. If you need a second.
If I had to describe my personality, maybe this color, like a deep blue. I kind of like that.
You're a deep guy, calm.
Yeah, placid.
Man, mine is, I was going to say, I'm more of a gradient. I go from like purple to
Oh
pink.
wow, gotta be
And
more
there's-
complex.
yeah.
Ooh.
Which seems really, really obnoxious after you say
Yeah.
navy blue.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Actually.
I was
I
gonna
do
go.
love that red that you chose for the
Oh yeah, for animal cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig that too.
I just don't know that it feels like it resonates to me.
It's okay. I mean, I'm a big guy. I'm literally wearing all navy today, aside from my pop of red.
Yeah,
So I
here we
like
are.
navy as well. But I don't know.
You were partnering with him.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, I got your back.
We did call.
You send a doc, by the
Yep.
way. Yeah. Well, what do you feel as partners, like, that you've taught each other as artists?
Quite a bit. I think one of the things that has always been appealing about this project and working with John is that we have such different skill sets, and it's very complementary. And I think when you just have that entire clash of worlds, it's just so natural to be constantly teaching each other a lot of things. I think whether it's like just technical things of like, oh, here's how I would do that in the studio, from just like approach, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of different things. Like I come from a background, like my dad is a musician. I started taking lessons at age 2. I went to school for jazz piano, and like every keyboard I own. I've read every page of the manual, and John's
Never read a
background.
manual in his life.
Yeah, it's very, and just even if you picked out our Spotify or Apple Music playlists, that's going to be very different there as well. But you know, we have some shared ground there for sure, and that's kind of what we reach for with our music. But,
Yeah. And I think also sometimes we don't even try to like, we just will blend things rather than trying to go for like the shared thing. Like I'm a big indie rock guy. I like rock and roll. I like guitar-based music. Scott obviously is a keyboard player in our band. He gravitates towards much more keyboard-based music sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Wouldn't argue
yeah.
that. But sometimes it's just the mashup of those two things, to me, is what makes our band sound different. And then, yeah, sometimes we do just sort of say, this is where there is overlap. We're in this Venn diagram of what we like, and sometimes we just go right down the middle and nail that. But back to your original question, like what we teach each other. Scott teaches me. I have no formal education in music. I don't know how to read music. I know very little. Everything I know I've taught myself, and it's all based on sort of like connecting blocks on top of the next block, and none of it's linear, and none of it makes necessarily any sense to probably a music somebody that actually studied music. I understand what I understand, and I sort of have my box that I exist in, and Scott just blows that box out of the water and allows different colors, different possibilities to sort of come up for our music. So it's been amazing to collaborate with Scott. When I write music where I'm like, this isn't right for this project, it's just so vastly different than what we end up getting to do together. So it really is a true collaboration, and I think that's what makes it powerful and awesome. So
You definitely feel like you guys renew each other in a way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Make music feel new to each other.
Yeah, for sure. Working with somebody who has such different skills and interests and styles. As when we come together, I feel like sometimes I'll have to like. It's always been fun and creatively challenging to be like, okay, let's say this song doesn't have 25 chord changes in it. How else can we make this interesting? It's like, it's a fun way to like think in different areas. And,
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, do you feel like becoming Colorfields is like Clark Kent becoming Superman? Like, is it an opportunity to be someone you're not, or be the most you've ever been?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. I think we've definitely been pushed into areas working with Jerry that we wouldn't necessarily have gone otherwise, but we weren't like, dragged, kicking and screaming. We're like, oh, this is great, this is interesting, and Jerry brings sort of another element, a third element that, that certainly influences the sound as the producer. But yeah, as far as like, I think when we work together, I think in my last answer was, I guess, trying to get to that, where I do feel like I couldn't do this music on my own. And I don't think Scott could either.
No.
So it's not so much that, because we're two people, we're not both like coming out of this booth as Superman. We're like coming together and making a product that I think is really super.
Just like a little like thumbs up at the camera.
I should have done super comma man, but
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
Supermen
Oh, okay.
when you come
Wow.
together.
I like that.
Minds are blown.
sick. I'm
Um,
gonna Photoshop a little S on the videos.
Kind of go with your
Yeah,
sweatshirt.
just turn this into it.
how do you feel Animal sets the tone for listeners and what they can expect from you in terms of style and message?
I feel like that's a good one to kind of showcase just some of the different influences we have. Like, some of the references for that song range from like Disclosure to like just heavy rock things, and it's just, and then bringing in Jerry, it just brings a whole other energy, and I think that song is just a really good entryway, because I think it does show off a lot of different sides of the type of music that we like to make. I think there's some loud rock guitars in the chorus. The verse has got kind of like a slinky little moving bass line and some synth stabs and stuff. I think, yeah, that is a very good entryway into some of the stuff we do.
Yeah, and I think our music, because of all of the disparate styles that we're trying to kind of pull together, you can listen to one song, say song X, and then you listen to song Z, and you're like, that's the same band, but there's all these common threads that connect things. And I think Animal is one where you've really got a lot of Scott and you've got a lot of me. There's going to be songs where you have more Scott, less of me, more of me, less of Scott.
Yeah.
And I think that, and then there's ones, well, we don't know. I don't know where that one came from, you know.
But
I-
yeah, what you're saying, like,
Yeah.
I feel like Animal is a good meeting point of those two things.
Exactly. It sort of is like a central crux that we can pivot this way, we can pivot that way. Like if you heard our more EDM infused pop track, Loving You Better, and Animal alone, because we have obviously more than just the 2 tracks that are currently out. Those are just the 2 singles. You'd be like, all right, interesting. And then if you were to pivot to some of our other music, I think Animal is a great hinge. It's just kind of like you can kind of move to any one of our songs or like our stylistic choices and understand where we're coming from.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's like a gradient navy blue,
Yeah.
combining
there you go.
those color fields. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. It's such a smooth track. I'm like, yes, like champagne smooth. And it kind of asks people to unleash that animal when it comes to love. Was there a moment in your life when you felt love unleashed your animal, your passion?
This guy's like shoveling that one.
Well,
That's fine. I did write
you got the lyrics
yeah.
on that one. So.
Yeah, no, I think that the song, you know, I think it really became clear what the song was about in meetings with our videographer for that song, Addie Olau, who's the director of it. And he sort of helped pull out the narrative of what it was actually saying. And now, of course, when I write, I'm very often it's stream of consciousness, and it's like inspirational hit, and I'll literally write everything right then. And sometimes, on some of these songs, I've had to really work hard. On Animal, it just flowed out. So I think in the moment, I was certainly probably at a time in my life where I was feeling like I am this mild-mannered person. Speaking of, you know, Clark Kent and Superman, all that, but I am passionate. I'm a very passionate person, and it can come out when I either am in an argument or when I'm feeling passionate in a love scenario, and it's not something that I get to really show people. And I guess that it just occurred to me to say it, that, you know, I think anybody can be this animalistic person. I think most people have it in them. And I think I'm speaking to that aspect of human nature where everybody's just walking past each other on the sidewalk, but every single one of these people is an animal, a real, actual, you know, animal, walking upright and being normal and being super, you know, like, oh, sorry, excuse me, let me hold the door for you. But we're all, you know, we have that in us to be either passionate, either angry, you know what I mean? I guess it's just a song about humanity.
That took such a philosophical
Yeah.
turn. That's perfect.
Max the other day was just the great bass player we had
Yeah.
at our live show recently was just, he hit me with a vocab word. I wish I could remember what it was, where it's like when the music follows what the lyrics are saying. And I do feel like
onomatopoeia almost.
yeah, but it was, I wish I could remember that word, but I do feel like Animal sort of like that, where the verse is this kind of pulled back, you're not really sure what's happening, and then the chorus is just big, and this is the statement, this is what it is.
So are you guys kind of asking people embrace your animal when it comes to love, and you'll embrace your humanity, kind of like something really deep, nuanced like
I
that?
think so. Or it's just, even if it's just anecdotal, interpersonal between the two people, I guess the narrator, whoever's singing, is singing to this, you know, their love interest, and just saying, like, you think I'm this, you know, mild-mannered individual, and you think that I'm not passionate and all these things, but I want to tell you that I am. I'm a passionate person, I'm a protective person, I'm going to love fiercely, I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to hold back, I'm not going to pull punches. So I think that it can, I think our videographer really saw it as more like, I won't share his anecdote about it. You recall, yeah, I'm not going to share it, it's gross. But just that everybody, we have this perception of people as being one way, when in reality there is something beneath them and underneath them and within them that can come out at any time, especially when passion and love are concerned. That's kind of it.
Well, we're heading towards my final 2 questions, and my question was kind of bouncing off of that. When you make a track, I'm curious, do you think of the audience, or do you just think of you, or both? Like, how does that, because it seems like the creative process is even surprising you as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I mean, for our recent show, just to share like how we came
Yeah.
together. We really wanted to perform. We just felt like, gosh, we want to get out here and play some of these songs, but ultimately we've only got really 6 that are in progress right now. But we needed to fill all this time, and we have tons of other material, tons. I mean, hours and hours and hours of material. And we went through and we picked out another 8, I think,
Yeah.
that
yeah.
were in progress, and just
maybe 10.
Yeah.
I think we had 16
right.
for the show at one
Right.
point.
So, and there was this period of about 2 weeks where Scott and I were writing and completing songs at this breakneck speed. And now, not all of it's awesome. Not all of it is
No,
something that we
yeah.
would probably even ever record, but it was an amazing like process to just let it come out and not really feel too constrained by like the market or what people would like or whatever. It just came through, and it was really, really awesome. So I think, to answer your question, we don't necessarily consider what people want to hear I certainly don't when it comes to lyrics, because I feel like the one thing that I like we're making pop music, but I don't think the lyrics are necessarily very, they don't really sound like modern pop lyrics. They're a little deeper, they're a little bit more esoteric, they're a little bit more angular. They're not quite as like on the nose, they're not just stories. Some of them are more, abstract or poetic. And that's sort of where I just sort of throw any kind of convention out of the window, or at least not modern pop conventions. I'm looking at songwriters that I like that are maybe in slightly more indie or weirder fields. But yeah, I mean, sometimes when we're actually composing, like writing the melodies and harmonies and all of that, sometimes we're definitely listening to other people that inspire us, right? I mean,
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes we'll be like, oh yeah, let's go after something that's like in this world and in this vibe, but it's usually because that's something that we love and
Really
that's
like,
something
yeah.
that we really like. It's not like just coming out of, oh yeah, this is number 3 on the charts right now.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do that. But yeah, I think it's always been I think the origin of the project was we started making songs that together just based off of things that we mutually like, and they were so different from the Okashas thing, and we just kind of took that drive of just what is it that we like and trying to really stay honest to that and have it be something that's, and obviously we hope people like it, and I
Yeah.
like to make music that other people like. That's enjoyable, but to start with, it's got to be something, at least for me, that I enjoy. And the audience has got to start with me, to be honest. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's actually like attracts like. You're not alone in your likes. No one
Oh,
is.
yeah, for sure.
So my final question is, what is your favorite childhood memory with music that has like a music attached to it?
I'm thinking, you have one?
yeah, I mean, I have a lot, probably better access to the sort of the origin of my musical interest because I was much older than Scott. Scott was what, 2 when we started playing? Not that you can only pull from the beginning, but for me, my favorite, when I was always an athlete. That's all I ever did. It's all I ever seemed like was the option for me and my family. So not that they expressly said that. It just seemed like this is what I do. I play basketball and baseball and all that. And then one day my mother got my sister piano lessons, and I was just like watching and listening and just like I couldn't pull away. And she's like, "Do you want piano lessons?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I do." And it just like lit this fire. Just from then on, it was just music all the time. I stopped playing sports. I was going to play baseball in college. I just didn't. I left that entire thing behind and went full bore into music. And I remember that day when I it just, when something, you just didn't even know something was possible, and then all of a sudden just like, oh, I can do that. Yeah, you can do that. That's open to you. It just didn't even seem like something I was allowed to do. So I remember that vividly, and that's what started this whole thing going, and I've never looked back.
I think for me, some early things that I recently saw, like a home VHS tape. This is not a memory, but I saw a home VHS tape of me as a little baby, where my dad thought it was very funny. I was dancing to, I can't remember which Michael Jackson track, but I'm in diapers, and he would just like turn the knob down, and I would start crying and stop dancing, and they would just turn it back up immediately, start dancing. Like, yeah, okay, that's always been something that I've gravitated towards. And you know, there's pictures, because my dad is a musician and growing up studying like that, there's pictures of me as a baby crawling over his guitars. And the first concert I remember going to see was like Freddie Hubbard on the New Haven Green with Kenny Kirkland on piano. It's like, you know, hard bop, some cool jazz music. And so many of my early memories are music related. And yeah, they're all a lot of good ones.
You saw
Yeah.
Prince how many times?
5.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Like
The
in
first time,
90s, right?
yeah, the first time I saw him was at Jones Beach, and he pulled up on a powerboat. He waited for the sun to kind of go down a little bit.
That's amazing.
That's a
Yeah.
power move. That's a power move.
Yeah, that was absolutely a
That's
power move. The band was on stage playing Sexy MF and just vamping. And I remember the Tony Barbarella, the keys player, had a clear Leslie. I remember thinking that was super cool.
Oh my
You
gosh,
could
a
see
clear Leslie, that's awesome.
the speaker spinning in it from 200 yards away. But Prince pulled up on a powerboat. That was pretty cool.
Prince is
Yeah.
definitely a shared. He actually got me into Prince like
Yeah.
years ago, but still, I didn't really like. We played Purple Rain once,
Yeah.
and I just didn't play the ending. He was like, "You're not gonna play the
gotta play
ending."
the-
I was like, "Oh, how's the ending go?" He's like, "John." You know,
Yeah.
and he just like shoveled Prince onto me, and I just was like, "Oh my God." So Prince is something we bond over and that we love to play, and like is a huge inspiration. So, yeah. Anyways, I don't know where that fits in, but
No, that's perfect ending. We'll end it on Prince.
All right.
Thank you, Color Fields. This is Diandra Reviews It All.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.